We've got something extra special today. We are looking at the brand new Sterling Pacific 40-liter cabin travel case. This is an updated design from Sterling Pacific with an extra 5 liters of capacity and 4 spinner wheels instead of the original 2 on the other design. We're going to be doing a full walkthrough of the materials, the exterior design, the interior layout, pros and cons after using it, and whether or not it's worth the ultra luxury price tag. I also want to give a huge thank you and a quick disclaimer. Sterling Pacific was kind enough to sponsor this week's video, and they did send out the 40-liter cabin travel case for me to test out and share with all of you, but rest assured they were extremely encouraging for me to share the entirety of my opinion, including positives and negatives and all of that sort of stuff. Just want to make sure that you knew up front, but with that in mind, let's get into some of the exterior features here. I don't think I could start with anything else but the design. This is easily the most beautiful piece of luggage I've ever had the pleasure of using. It has this sort of retro mid-century aviation type of aesthetic that just screams luxury with the aluminum and the leather accents. It is absolutely gorgeous and will no doubt get you some eyeballs and compliments when wheeling this through the airport. It's 40 liters in capacity. It measures 22.5 inches tall, 14 inches wide, and 9 inches deep. The entire body and exterior is made out of 5000 series aluminum. It is super beefy and rigid. You're not going to get much flex out of it like you would on some lower priced aluminum suitcases. In addition to the thickness of the aluminum body, you have what they call impact bearing ridges, which I think add a ton to the overall design language here, but also serve a really good function. They're going to help pretty significantly in keeping the contents safe on the interior of the case as well as the case itself. All of the corners are reinforced with 5052 aluminum. It's 76% thicker, so you have just that extra impact resistance. It's also assembled with over 100 SAE 304 stainless steel rivets. This thing is built like a tank, feels sturdy and burly in the best way possible. To complement all of the aluminum, you have full grain Italian aniline leather handles on both the top and the sides, as well as the trolley handle. They source it from an independent tannery in Chiampo. It's chrome tanned. It's going to have this really excellent patina over time. Between the aluminum and the leather, you can definitely tell this is something that was built to last for a very long time. Both of these elements are going to age really gracefully, and I think their overall design and aesthetic here is going to lend itself to that aging process. I really love to see it. The big change here, though, compared to the 35-liter cabin travel case that we looked at last year, is the change out from a 2-wheel design to a 4-wheel spinner design. I tend to land on the 4-wheel camp as my overall preference. I can definitely understand the benefits to some 2-wheel designs, but the 4 spinner wheel combo is just the best for maneuverability around tight spaces. When you're loading into a plane or going around the airport, it just makes things as easy as possible. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect with the spinner wheel design compared to the 2 wheels on the previous models because I really loved the quality of those 2 wheels, and luckily they have not disappointed here at all. They're 2 inches in diameter. The main exterior of the wheel is a polymer blend. It almost has a little bit of a softer, more rubbery type of feel that's going to add to that overall smoothness. I'm personally unfamiliar with this process, but it did go through an endurance test called Satra TM248. It's a 25-kilometer distance that they run this through to ensure that the wheels are operating and working and will hold up over time. My personal experience, they're super smooth and they feel really high quality compared to some other luggage I've tested. I'm also really happy they continued on with the metal wheel caps. I think it adds so much to this look and design. The wheel caps are made out of a metal called Zamic 3. It's a zinc-based alloy blend. They're able to have it a little bit thinner than aluminum with the same tensile strength, so a little bit stronger but still a little bit thinner and lighter weight, so perfect for this type of application. Overall, I love the new design with the wheels. I think it is a welcomed upgrade for my personal preference. You have TSA double combination latch locks on the opening side. No real surprises there. They work exactly as expected. You have this really nice glossy Sterling Pacific logo on the front to complement the matte design of the aluminum. Just the overall look and feel of the exterior. You know, this thing is built to last. It's super strong and rigid, and it looks just absolutely incredible. Moving into the interior, this This is where the differences will start to really show compared to the 35-liter case. If you're familiar with that at all, you have a little bit more of a traditional, completely middle split clamshell type of design compared to the trunk style of the 35-liter. I think you get a little bit more space and flexibility with how you can pack. There's a reason it is the almost unanimous choice. Great materials continue through on the interior though. I really love this new fabric that they're using for the lining. It's a synthetic suede-like material. It's very similar to Alcantara if you're familiar with that. In addition to that lining fabric though, you have full metal buckles and metal zippers. You have a really nice leather patch with the Sterling Pacific logo and the specialized batch number underneath it. Just really simple and elegant, absolutely no surprises here. The luxury continues through the interior. One of the first things you'll see when you open up the case, you get your own little amenity care kit here, which I really appreciate. Kind of a subtle nod to, care amenity kits that you get in first class travel. Not that I'm much of a first class traveler, to be honest, but it is nice to feel like one getting to test out really awesome luggage like this. Nothing too extravagant in here, but some really nice appreciated extras. You get this little twill cotton type of bag. You have a little user manual for the suitcase, as well as some leather care balm that's made in the US. You get a nice little polishing cloth here, as well as a Sterling Pacific branded aluminum pen. Just a nice little touch that I really appreciate. Going over the layout here though, very straightforward. You have compression straps on this side. You have one zippered mesh pocket on the outside of this half. And then opening up this half, you just have a fully lined zippered compression pocket. It's a real rarity for me to need a suit when I'm traveling, but I have a very specific way of folding it up and using half of a carry-on suitcase to make sure that it doesn't wrinkle or anything. This sort of pocket here I think is perfect for that. It's going to stay out of the way and avoid compression from the other items in the suitcase. I think this is also a really ideal option if you're packing a ton of small stuff. I do a lot of trips back to Detroit for Christmas, and I'm bringing home, little gifts and doodads and just random small stuff. So having the zippered pocket, I think, is a really nice touch for my personal travel, at least. Really great interior overall, though. Packability is very straightforward and kind of as you'd expect. This is a very common layout for most carry-on suitcases. I was really happy to see all of the luxury materials continue through on the interior as well. It's great to have something really eye-catching on the exterior, but you don't want to skimp on the interior for the actual user experience of the person owning it. So we've covered the materials, the exterior, the interior. Now it's kind of my time for pros and cons and my kind of more subjective, anecdotal user experience having this for the past few months. I can't stress enough how much I just absolutely love the overall design language and aesthetics here. It's such a great balance of kind of a cool retro look, but also timeless at the same time. I think the material choices really aid in the overall look and design, but are also really great materials for more graceful aging. This has a lifetime warranty and it's built like a tank, so it's something that's potentially going to be used for decades or even generations. The fact that the materials are going to continue to hold up from a structural standpoint, but also continue to look better and better over time as they age is something I really appreciate. It's even more eye-catching in person. Hopefully my B-roll is doing it some justice, and I think I said this earlier, but it truly feels like a piece of art as much as it is a piece of functional luggage. I did see for the new 40-liter version, they do have a black aluminum as well. So that's something you might want to look into if you like a more black, dark aesthetic. But I think kind of takes away from the sort of classic timeless look here for me personally, but your mileage may vary. It's obviously a personal preference type of thing on the looks. I really love the fact that they've added in, a 4-wheel spinner wheel type of design to their lineup. It's definitely my preference for travel. 2-wheel has its benefits for some. If you're going down a lot of like big cobblestone roads or something, you might want to stick with that. For me personally though, I've always found 4-wheel luggage to be much more convenient for tight maneuvering around, which is mainly what I want from my luggage. As far as cons or negatives go with my experience, there's not a lot for me personally that affects my usual type of travel, but your mileage may vary. The first thing that always comes up with aluminum luggage is scratches and dents. I kind of already discussed this earlier. I think this design really lends itself to that wear and tear to age a lot more gracefully. Some other completely flat panel designs would probably end up looking a little bit worse for wear, but just something about this sort of like timeless classic aesthetic, I think it's going to look really great as it ages. The other potentially bigger pain point for a lot of travelers is going to be the size and weight here. This was designed from my understanding, mainly as a domestic US travel type of case. I did some digging and looking. I don't personally do much international travel, but it does seem like it will work with some airlines. But if you travel exclusively internationally, you might be wanting to look at something a little bit smaller. But if you do kind of a hybrid with the occasional international trip, but you're mainly flying, cross country or something like I do, I don't really see this as a big issue. I've seen some other reports of people being able to take this, from the US to Sydney and, a bunch of other countries outside. But looking at some of the airline restrictions, there are definitely some locations and some airports and some airlines where you are going to have trouble trying to bring this internationally. The other aspect, and kind of on a similar note with the domestic travel aspect, is the weight. This thing weighs 12 pounds. It is extremely heavy on the spectrum of luggage weights. All of this burly, strong design, comes at a bit of a weight penalty. For domestic travel, in my experience, this really isn't an issue. I have personally never had my bags weighed on any flight ever. But again, this mainly just depends on your specific type of travel. If you're exclusively an international traveler going from the US to Asia and you have all of these really tough restrictions and weight issues that you have to overcome, this probably isn't the bag for you. But if you're someone like me that mainly flies domestically with the occasional international trip, I don't personally see a lot of issues with the size and weight for my use case. It's just not something that's ever really come up as an issue for me. It really just boils down to what type of traveler you are and what your needs are from your luggage. And that kind of moves us into our last segment here that I wanted to talk about. That is just kind of the overall value proposition here. Make no mistake, this is an ultra luxury suitcase with an ultra luxury price tag. This sort of zero compromise mentality around the build quality and the materials, definitely comes at a weight cost, but it also is coming at a literal price cost. I always have a lot of respect for companies that have a very specific vision for their products and what they want them to be, who they want them to be for, and they don't want to compromise on the quality for the materials or the aesthetics or any of that. I have a ton of respect for companies that really have that follow through. It can be a little bit restrictive, but you end up with a perfect suitcase for the right person. So I appreciate that they know what they're doing, they know what they're going for, and they executed on that. And in my experience, they really executed on it pretty perfectly. It ultimately depends on what type of traveler you are, what type of budget you have for your luggage, and what your needs out of your luggage are. If what they're offering here fits the bill for what you need and you have the budget to spare to afford it, I think this is about as perfect as it gets. It's truly been a pleasure to be able to test and share this with all of you. It is truly a special piece of luggage. I mentioned it quickly earlier, but I almost forgot to mention it again in this sort of value proposition. You do get a lifetime warranty here. So if anything happens, you have the special batch number embossed on the side of the case itself. You have that extra peace of mind on top of the just absolutely insane build quality. So if this is something that sounds interesting, or if you just want to check it out for yourself and learn more, see that black color variant, check the link down in the description. It's not an affiliate link or anything. I'd love for you to take a closer look. Watch some other videos on this too if you want. I just find it fascinating and love diving into these type of zero compromise products in any category. So I had a great time. Hopefully you did too. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.